if I were to take out my camera phone now and take a photo of you, Eric,
Yeah.
you are a famous person,
Correct.
right? Which you undeniably are. Doesn't matter that you're famous. I own the copyright to that photo because I took it. Okay, and if I were to go and put this photo of you on, let's say, my law firm website,
Right.
and I try to promote my law firm
Correct.
using your image,
Correct.
you can't come after me
Oh.
because I own the copyright to that photo.
Oh my god.
Okay,
So if I take a picture of my client and then
you own the
I
copyright.
Listening to #highly sought after.
In this episode of #highly sought after, I had a chat with Fong Wei, a well-known lawyer here in Singapore, to address the top 3 social media related issues that may get you in legal trouble: copyright infringement, defamation, and cancel culture. Wei represents and advises influencers, public figures, and companies on online issues like privacy, defamation, and how they can avoid getting into trouble on social media. He is also an adjunct faculty at Singapore Management University's School of Law. So with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, Fong Wei.
Hello, Eric.
Yo.
Hi. Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming here.
Thanks for the orange setup, which I think you know is my favorite color.
This is your favorite color.
Yeah, and it matches
Totally.
my socks, you see, so I'm very happy.
So now, Wei, I know you for a few years, but I've never asked you this question. So I want to take the liberty of asking you
What
this
is it? Is
question.
it a sensitive question?
Well, every question is sensitive. I'm very curious. Like, have you always thought about studying law? Is that always been your ambition?
Ambition is a very lofty word. So maybe no. Law wasn't my first pursuit actually. So when I went to university first, what I studied was actually psychology and media and comms. So I actually got my interest in law peaked when I was working in my first job. I came across a lot of rather complex legal issues. I found it interesting. So I decided, if not now, then when, sign up for a law degree, and then the rest was history lah, right? So I've spent, I would say maybe the last 7 to 8 years practicing law, and I've never looked back. Helps that I kind of enjoy what I'm doing. So here I am, law.
Yeah, what is it about law that you enjoy?
Wow. Definitely not the money lah. Contrary to what people
Popular
think,
belief.
we make a comfortable living, but we are not
That's
like
such
exorbitantly
a
rich.
PC answer.
Of course. I don't want people blackmailing me. What is it about law? that I
Yeah, I'm
like?
very curious.
Okay, so my good friends will say that I'm a very argumentative person. So I think it kind of fits in with my nature to some extent, especially the kind of work that I do, which is litigation, going to court, handling disputes. I am the kind of person who enjoys getting a kick out of finding a good argument. Sorry, I cannot snap my fingers. Finding a good argument, finding a good point. I'm the kind of person who also gets a kick out of winning lah. Right? So
These are things that a client would love to hear about a lawyer. If you think about it, if I hire a lawyer and the lawyer tell me that, hey, I'm not too sure if I can help you in this case, then it doesn't give me confidence.
I mean, I like to win, but I will never, or no decent lawyer will tell a client, hey, confirm will win lah, right?
of
Because
course.
in litigation, there is no certainty. So many factors and moving parts come into play. But going back to your earlier question, I like what I do lah, which makes it less of a chore, which makes waking up in the morning less of a pain lah. So yeah, these are the things that keep me going.
So I'm curious, like now we know why you got into law, but how do you end up specializing in, social media and internet law?
Okay. I don't think I found that area of work. I think the converse is more accurate. The area of work found me. So my first, so to speak, degree was in psychology and media and comms, right? So when I first started venturing out into the professional world, I had quite a number of contacts working within the media industry. So I think these were also the contacts who started sending me work in the initial stages of my career. And I think it kind of snowballed from there, right? Started doing a lot of work for advertising companies, for media agencies, for news outlets. And after some time, word got around, the referrals started picking up, and I'm here where I am today, law.
Got it. So by
Yeah.
virtue that you're
Yeah.
already in
Yeah.
that world, right?
It's a very organic kind of growth process.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, What was one of the most interesting cases, if you can share with us?
Interesting cases.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I want to set the context because like sometimes we watch a lot of TV shows and Netflix, right? And so we have this false impression of what a lawyer
Nothing
is
like that lah.
Nothing as
like
cool as that.
Nothing. I mean, it depends on how good looking your lawyer is, right? If your lawyer is very good looking, then maybe very cool, right?
Because I'm a big fan of Suits, by the way, right?
But that aside,
Yeah.
I would say 80% of what goes on in these legal dramas are not very accurate lah. Right.
Oh,
sorry to disappoint you,
disappointed
Eric, and the
bubble
world at
burst.
large. Yeah. But these legal dramas are also important because if you don't have them, then you won't attract people to become lawyers. Right?
Exactly, that's
right.
very true.
So
That's
only
so
when they
true.
start working as a real lawyer, they get a cultural shock and they realize that all that is like fiction.
Later, I'm gonna make a mental note to ask Wei Li, what are some of the things that shocked you?
Okay, right.
We'll put that
We
aside
can
for a
talk about that
moment.
later.
Tell us most interesting case so far in your career.
I would say maybe revenge porn.
Whoa. Two very, very interesting words.
Revenge porn.
What's revenge porn?
Revenge porn is when you, let's say, get into a relationship with somebody. During the course of the relationship, you take certain compromising photos of each other or of the both of you together doing certain things
Yep.
that should be kept private.
Correct.
Then the relationship goes south, you break up, and then you use the photos to sort of maybe blackmail the other person or to threaten the other person lah. That's revenge porn lah.
I
And
see. So interesting.
it is
Okay.
interesting because I dealt with quite a bit of these kind of matters in the initial stages of my career. I mean, I still do so now. My team still does that now. Not so much myself personally. But it's interesting because it offers you, I think, a glimpse into human nature and how things can, change. Sorry, I'm attempting to snap my fingers again when I totally can't.
I also
do
can't
It,
snap.
right? It offers you a glimpse into human nature, and it's kind of startling that one day you can be lovers, and another
Yeah.
day you can things can change.
Turn things
altogether
around,
lah.
right?
Turn things around, and then you can take something that's most intimate to a person, i.e., photos, videos
Correct.
that are private, right, and then threaten to
Use it
release
against
them.
them.
Yeah, use it against them lah. So I mean, it's also an interesting learning point, right? And the learning point being, even if you are in a relationship, flaming passion,
Yeah.
certain things don't do lah.
Okay.
I mean, don't allow people to take photos of you in compromising states.
Just-
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think interesting.
So how do you end up? Like who sued who?
No
or-
lah. So usually what happens is that there will be a threat. Oh, I have these photos of you. If you don't get back with me, if you don't meet me, or if you don't pick up my call, I'm going to put them on the internet. So it's usually the person who's being threatened who will consider taking legal action against the person who has these photos.
And
or-
does that person have a case?
Yeah, definitely.
So even if that person just threatened
Yeah.
to post it, I already have a case.
Even a threat carries with it, so to speak, legal risk or legal consequences.
Got it.
lah.
Now, but what if that person actually posted
Then
those
worse lah.
videos and pictures? Then he or she is gonna get it, right? But
Yeah.
I will also suffer the consequence, right? Because
You-
my videos are out. Right?
Yeah, you will. No doubt about that. What goes on the internet or so
Stays
I've learned,
there.
stays
Yeah.
on the internet. It's not going to disappear. It can get buried within layers of Google search pages.
It's probably on the 26th
right?
page of the Google.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's there. And just because you successfully remove something doesn't mean that nobody has actually saved it.
Exactly.
And nobody's going to recirculate it down the road, you see. So that's the sad reality of the world that we live in lah.
So question,
Ah.
if I received that video,
Ah.
right, of someone in a compromised position, that person was a victim of revenge porn, as you
Okay.
said, and then I watched that video,
Right.
is it illegal?
Technically, it is. Technically.
Okay, so if I watch it, it's illegal. If I share it with my friends
Yes,
in the WhatsApp group,
illegal because it is technically a criminal offense to be in possession of obscene films or obscene materials. It's not a provision that they actively prosecute people on because, well,
Yeah.
most people have certain things on their computers. But if you happen to be caught, I mean, look, the reality of it is that if you threaten somebody with the prospect of releasing these kind of photos, that person makes a police report against you. The police comes to you, looks at your computer, and discovers that you have that video plus 20 others, 200 others.
Correct.
Then the police is going to say, well, since I'm already on this matter, I'm going to slap you with this extra charge of possessing obscene films.
Okay.
Right? So
That's a very, very helpful point.
yeah, but I'm not going to scare everybody by insinuating that they go around prosecuting actively.
But going back to what you just said, I think my takeaway from you is that in today's world where all of us are a media company because of our mobile phone, we got to be very careful about the videos that we take. That we have to assume that every video that we take might one day leak out. And therefore we have to ask ourselves, if I'm going to take that video and if it leaked out, will I be okay about it? If not, don't even take that video.
Yeah. So I would say sometimes prevention is a lot
Better than cure. I love that.
Yeah.
So, in today's interview, I have zoned into 3 of the biggest social media related issues that all content creators and entrepreneurs will face when we are active on social media. 1 is copyright infringement, 2 is defamation, and 3, something very new, which is cancel culture.
Okay.
Right. So let's go straight into copyright infringement first. It's like the most popular topic. So if I draw out a Disney character or any other characters for that matter, right? Am I able to use it commercially or for personal usage only?
Technically, no. Because like you have rightly pointed out, this mechanism called copyright exists. Copyright is a form of legal protection that covers creative works. So if I take a photograph, for example, I own the copyright to that photograph. If I write a poem, I own the copyright to that poem. If I compose a tune or a song, I own the copyright to that song. Right? And contrary to what a lot of people think, you don't need to register the copyright for that copyright to be effective. The moment you create something, for example, I have a canvas, I paint a photo.
Correct.
Sorry, not a photo. I paint,
A picture.
let's say, a landscape.
Yeah.
Okay? Immediately upon creation of that work, the copyright latches onto that work. Okay? And if somebody takes an image of this painting and then tries to use it for his or her own commercial gain, I can say, hey, you are infringing upon my copyright. I then have a legal case against you.
So if let's say I say something in a video or a speech, right, a quotable quote, and then someone use it without saying that it came from me, would that be already a copyright infringement?
We've got to be a bit technical about things. Let's split hairs here, right? What you say isn't covered by copyright, but the video is. Right? Because the video is a work of, I wouldn't say art, but it's a creative work.
Yeah, it's still a creative
right?
work.
And if you are the one who commissioned the video, then you own it.
Or if I put that quote, something I say, into a picture, that means I put it into like an Instagram post with the text, and I put there, it's by Eric Fong, right? As long as they don't use that picture, technically they can still use the text.
Depends. So if you have, let's say, just a slogan or a catchy tagline,
Correct.
that kind of content's not technically protected by copyright. But what you can do if you have a logo or a image or a tagline is to get it trademarked. That's different from copyright. So trademark is another mechanism under intellectual property law which kind of protects your intellectual property.
But when I trademark, I can only trademark visuals, I can trademark icons, I can trademark slogans.
You can technically trademark a word. But the danger of trademarking a work is that if you trademark a very generic word, for example, beautiful, for example, bright,
Correct.
There is a possibility that your registration may still go through. But what may happen down the road is that if somebody else wants to use that same word, they may challenge your registration, and a court looking at the issue may say, hey, actually, your registration shouldn't have gone through because the word that you are trying to trademark is too generic. It's very descriptive of a product.
And
right?
what about a code? Something I say and I want to trademark that.
You technically can.
Awesome.
But it's got to be special enough, right?
it.
It's got to be
And
special
I need to
enough.
prove that no one has said that before.
You don't technically need to,
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
As long as no one has fought for it,
Yeah,
then
as
I
long as
become the
nobody
originator.
has registered it, it's a first come, first serve basis kind
Got
of
it.
thing. Yeah.
Another question we get asked a lot: like we watch a movie, we hear a song on Spotify, and then we capture the video for maybe about a few seconds to a minute. Or a music that we listen to, we capture about 15 seconds for an Instagram story. Is that actually legal or illegal?
Depends. I know nobody likes to hear the word depends, but we lawyers say it a lot, right? Because it really
It
depends.
really depends. Okay.
Many moving parts come into play when you talk about the legality of something that you do. So if you are taking a snippet of somebody else's work and using it, right? Whether or not that constitutes copyright infringement depends on a number of factors. First, are you using it for a personal purpose or are you using it for commercial gain? Okay, because if you're using it for a commercial purpose to make money off it, then the odds are that it may not be seen as what we call fair use. Okay, also depends on how much of the work you reproduce. If the film that you are talking about is 2 hours long and you reproduce 1 hour 45 minutes, then that's not fair, right?
True, but what if it's like maybe a minute?
A minute is fine. A minute is fine, I think.
So it's also by proportion.
Yeah, by proportion. Other factors that come into play would be whether or not you can obtain that work or that part at a reasonable price. Was there an option for you to pay a reasonable price to use it? Because if there is, then there's no excuse for you to use it without paying, right? Yeah. So when a court has to determine whether or not a use of a particular piece of work amounts to fair dealing, a court will look at all these factors, and
Very
weigh these
nice. This is
factors.
very helpful.
Yeah.
But if we, let's say, at least credit the source, would that also kind of help us, save us a little bit of legal trouble?
Technically speaking, crediting doesn't help. Technically speaking, what you need to do to get full protection or immunity is to get permission from the copyright owner. But I think getting permissions, idealistic, but practically sometimes a bit difficult because you may see something that you like on the net. For example, you may see a photo that you like on the internet that you want to use in your PowerPoint slide.
Yeah,
right?
yes, exactly.
But you don't know who the original owner of this photo
Yeah,
is.
especially on Google, it would say that it's subjected to copyrights, but we have no idea who's the source.
So in those kind of situations, you cannot get permission because you don't know who the OG owner is. The best you can do is to credit it, so that at least your audience or your viewers know that, hey, you're not trying to pass off somebody's work or somebody's original creation as your own. Yeah. So so back to your question, crediting isn't a foolproof shield, but at least if somebody comes after you, touch wood, then you can say, hey, at least I credited you. I wasn't trying to pretend that I was the OG owner.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
And then at most, the person probably will just ask you to take it down.
Possibly,
right?
and then you will just comply and say, okay, I'll take it down.
What about, I see people basically, using short clips. So for example, I create maybe a 2 to 3 minute video, right? And then someone downloaded my video and then posted it on another social media platform, but he or she did credit me. Is that considered legal?
I think that's fine given the way social media works today. You need to bear in mind a few things, right? If you yourself are a content creator and you've put up that video on your social media page,
Correct.
The expectation is that you want people to share it.
Exactly, but I want them to share directly. I may not want them to download that video and then
Right.
put it onto their social media page.
Sadly, the law doesn't make a distinction between sharing, meaning click the share button, so that at least it leads viewers back to your original
page, yeah.
And then downloading it and putting it on my social media page. The law doesn't yet make a distinction between these two. I mean, of course, to content creators, it's an important distinction, right? But I think the law hasn't caught up.
Got it. So what that means is that, let's say we maybe in Singapore, like we have SGAG, right? And they post very funny videos. I could actually just extract that video and I can post it on my website.
Yeah, and in that case, right? In a situation like that, I think it's going to be quite clear to whoever is seeing that video on this reposted site that it's not yours, right? I mean, it's very clearly SGAG's, and people are unlikely to think that you were the one who produced it.
So I guess as a content creator, we just got to learn how to put our personal signature in all
Yeah,
our videos.
you watermark your video
Yeah.
or you put your branding on your video so that it becomes very obvious to the world at large that it came from you lah.
Like even though it's on another website, immediately when I see, I
Yeah.
know like Uncle Roger. The minute
Yeah.
you see orange, you know Uncle Roger, right?
Yeah.
So that's like
Orange
his brand.
is also me.
Orange forward legal, right? Wei Li. I got it. So that means to say, like you know how WhatsApp, like my
Yeah.
dad will always forward me very nice videos, very inspirational videos, and I have no idea where the source is. I could just download the video and post it on my Facebook page, and that's fine.
I guess you could, unless of course. I mean, you can always do things until you can't do things, right? Right.
Correct.
So it depends. You've got to be mindful of a number of factors also. Is this video something that's created by an individual that's not known? Right? It's somebody's travel log, for example.
Correct.
Somebody took a photo of a waterfall in Iceland.
Correct.
Then I guess you could safely repost it. Like, wow, very nice.
Yeah.
I want to visit this place. But if it's from, well, Disney,
Yeah, Marvel, Sony.
Marvel,
Yeah.
what have you not, then you may want to think twice, right? About
Got it. So,
reproducing
so
it.
look
right?
at the source.
Yeah, so if somebody sends you a clip of, let's say, an Avengers movie that runs 1 hour, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
you don't want to repost that, right?
Absolutely. I get it.
Because-
So the length matters, the source of the content matters as well.
because these are the corporations who have more to lose from these kind of unlawful repostings.
So true.
And these are also the corporations who have the pockets to come after you.
Another
right?
question. I watched a video on Douyin. You know Douyin, right? It's like TikTok Chinese version. And you know, there are a lot of very inspirational Chinese videos.
Right.
I take their story out, I translate it in English, and I redo the video. Is that copyright infringement?
Possible. There have been many past examples of this happening. So what happened was, I don't know whether you know Jin Yong, who is a very famous
Jin Yong, famous writer, yeah.
武侠小说,
对。
how do you translate that? in English?
Pugilistic,
yeah.
martial arts
comics,
novels.
lah, what, okay.
Can I just say comics? Like basically books, lah.
So what happened was that there were other authors out there who wrote fan fiction online. You know what fan fiction
Yeah,
is, right?
absolutely,
And these fan fiction that they published online actually sort of made very direct references to the actual characters in the Jin Yong novels, like Yang Guo, Xiao Long Yu,
correct.
etc., right? And there was actually a valid case against these people who were reproducing this fan fiction. So they were technically not using the same storylines or plot lines, just using the names, using the characters, writing their own, so to speak, version of their own romanticization of the events, lah, right? And I mean, if
And why?
goes-
Why is that?
if you grow big enough and you're starting to make money from it, people want to come after you, right? I mean, if it's a little blog that you keep, the readers limited to your mother, your father, and your girlfriend, then I guess nobody is going to come after you. But if something that you produce gains traction and your audience starts growing and you start to try to make money of it by, let's say, offering advertisements on your site, then people will come after you because you are technically profiteering at my expense, ma. Correct. You are
so
using my intellectual property, my ideas, my property, so to speak, to earn money. Why should you be allowed to do that?
Got it. So if you think about it, actually any case, you can fight a case if that content creator wants to do that.
lah, but it really very much depends on, like I said, whether or not somebody is going to come after you depends on, first, how deep their pockets are, and second, whether or not you are making a hell lot of money out of this idea that you are using.
Got it. Wow, thank you so much, man. I heard about a case where Katy Perry, right, very famous singer, she used a photo that was taken of her and put it on Instagram,
Right.
and she got sued.
Yeah, because she didn't take
Why?
the photo herself, right?
But it's her. That's her image, right?
So this is a question that we get a lot.
Oh.
Okay. We're very tired of answering it, but we'll say it. It's
give
fine.
us
It's fine.
free legal advice.
Technically,
Yes.
at least as far as Singapore law is concerned, the copyright of a photograph lies with the photographer. So if I were to take out my camera phone now and take a photo of you, Eric, and you are a famous person,
Correct.
right? Which you undeniably are. Doesn't matter that you are famous. I own the copyright to that photo because I took it. Okay, and if I were to go and put this photo of you on, let's say, my law firm website,
Correct.
and I try to promote my law firm
Correct.
using your image,
Correct.
you can't come after me
Oh.
because I own the copyright to that photo.
Oh my God.
Okay,
So if I take a picture of my client
Yeah,
and then
you own the copyright to
I
that.
posted on the website without his permission. Technically, I did not make any legal. I did not.
Well, it depends
break a
whether or not you
law.
have posted that photo as an individual or as a
No,
company.
I posted as him. That means like let's say you're my client. I take a
Right.
picture of you. You did give me a testimonial, but
Mm.
I didn't ask you for permission. I just share your picture and your
Ah.
testimonial on my Instagram story.
Tricky.
Yeah.
So if I run a business
Yes.
and I'm a registered business, I am a company, and I do that, I could potentially be in breach of data protection laws. But you see, the thing about data protection laws, as far as our laws are concerned, is that they only apply to organizations and corporations. They don't apply to individuals. So if I were to take your photo and put it on my personal blog, I wouldn't be doing anything wrong. But if I were to take your photo without your consent and I put it on my company's website, then my company may get into trouble
Because of the data
yes,
law,
because
not
of data
because of copyright
No, not
infringement.
because copyright infringement.
I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so
Yeah.
useful. Okay, I got it. So that's why I guess for now, okay, so that's that segment that we've covered so far, copyright infringement. It's also about the amount that you kind of extract. It also depends on the source, right? And that whether do you put in effort to credit the person.
And also the purpose lah.
Are you
The
there to-
predominant purpose. Are you using it, are you using it on your personal, let's say, Instagram page? Maybe you just put up an inspirational post on your
Yeah.
own Instagram page, or are you using it to make money, right? Are you commercializing that?
Yeah, but technically, anybody
content.
watching this right now, they're all commercializing because we are all content creators, we are entrepreneurs trying to build our personal brand.
Yeah lah.
So all that content, even though we don't make money directly from that video, but indirectly we are
Yeah.
making money from the video.
So it's considered commercialization.
So going back to that towing one, which is a very valid example, is that in future, if we get inspired by other people's content and we try to translate translate the Chinese content into English content, for example, technically speaking, we must still either ask for their permission or at least credit them and tell people where we get it source.
Or don't be lazy, adapt it lah. Don't copy wholesale. I mean, content creators, you guys are very creative people, right? And it's not past your abilities to take something and kind of repackage it, remodel it, adapt it so that there is a certain degree of originality to it, right? I think the risk is most pronounced when you take something and you lock, stock, barrel, reproduce it. Don't believe people when they say that imitation is the highest form of flattery. Imitation is also the highest form of legal risk. Okay, you can get inspiration, you can repackage, remodel. I think that's fine, and I think it's important also that, and I'm saying this at the expense of something like I'm plugging my services, right? But if you are going into developing a piece of content or working on a project that requires significant investment, time, effort, etc., I think it's worthwhile to go and speak to somebody who knows copyright law,
Exactly.
like a lawyer,
Yeah.
and say, hey, this is what I intend to do. I've taken inspiration from where and where, right? This is the original, so to speak, content. This is my content. Is it going to pass muster? The lawyer can then look at it and say, okay, looks fine. Or the lawyer can say, hey, you may want to change this a bit. You may want to tweak that a little, so that you go into it with a peace of mind, and you don't forever, have that dark cloud looming over your
Yeah.
head, wondering whether or not someday somebody is going to come after you for infringement.
And I guess if you're going to be very high profile, then of
Yeah,
course then
yeah.
everybody will go after you, right?
Right. If you're high profile, they will go after you because first, they will think that you are very rich
Yeah.
and you have deep pockets. Second, they will want to make an example out of you.
Correct.
Right?
Deterrence.
Yeah.
Got it. That's why it's always helpful to have a lawyer as well for defense strategy,
Yeah.
right?
More useful to have a lawyer who's a friend who can give you free advice.
Oh my God. Now
So
everybody
go
wants to be a friend with
befriend a
you.
lawyer, befriend a lawyer, yeah.
Now let's move on to the second one, which is I think actually we kind of also covered fair use already, right?
Yeah, okay.
Right, because maybe just help out for the recording purpose, right? What is considered fair use?
Exactly what we talked about earlier. When you take a small, let's say, portion of a copyrighted work and you use it.
And
that's
memes and
fair
GIFs are
use.
okay, right? If
That's
you use
fine,
memes and
that's
GIFs.
That's fine. But like I said earlier, whether or not something constitutes fair use, there's no one golden fixed standard to it. Whether or not something constitutes fair use depends on a number of factors, like what you're using it for. Are you trying to make money out of it? How much of it have you used? Is it going to be easy or reasonable for you to procure that same content at a decent price? All these factors come into play.
Very nice. So now we know.
Mm.
Now, let's move on to something really, really interesting.
What's that?
Defamation.
Okay.
We get that a lot. And,
Right.
and I mean, by the way, Wei Li is very known, all right, as a defamation lawyer. That means if you ever get slandered
I
or
hope
you get
not.
into libel, right, or defamation, like by default, Wei Li will be one of the top 3 names that people will say, you go and talk to him. He's very experienced. He can help you.
Yeah.
So I want to know why you have this reputation. Like, why do people recognize you as a lawyer that's good to fight defamation cases?
I mean, it's a matter of doing it constantly, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the law is just like any other skill or profession. The more you do it, the more, so to speak, familiar you are with the area of law, and the better you are at it. I think for me, I was lucky enough to have started doing defamation work in relation to the internet. I mean, broadly, in the past, when we talk about defamation, let's say 30, 40 years ago, we're still looking at defamation in print, right? Newspapers, magazines, because the internet isn't all that pervasive.
Correct.
But now, when we talk about defamation, we are really looking at internet defamation.
Yeah.
You can defame anybody, anywhere, anytime, over Instagram, over Facebook, on Twitter, over a WhatsApp message, over email. With these channels of communication becoming more readily available, also comes with it a corresponding increase in the number of defamation cases. So I wouldn't say it's entirely because I'm good, right? But maybe also because
the demand is
the
higher
demand
now
is
because
higher
of
now,
the environment.
because of the environment that we live in, and I was lucky enough to have started doing a lot of work in defamation in relation to the internet. And in the course of doing that, I developed, so to speak, a familiarity with, how the internet is being used, the different social media platforms, what you can do on them, what you cannot do on them, how you can share things on one platform and not on another platform, right? So over time, I've learned these things, and I guess it comes into play.
So teach us. Okay?
Teach you
us. How do we make sure that we can prevent ourselves, since Wei Li said prevention is better than cure, how do we make sure that we don't get ourselves into defamation suits?
How to say shit without being sued, is it?
Oh, wow. That's a much better question.
That's the title of my book.
How-
No, kidding. I'm not writing a book.
How do we say shit without getting into
Can you
trouble?
say shit or not your podcast?
Can,
huh?
of
Okay,
course.
okay. Okay, so I can talk to you about this until the cows come home, because we actually do teach courses like this to news outlets, to journalists, to content creators. But in a nutshell, if I had to sum it up, I would say maybe 3 things to look out for. First is stick to the truth where possible, right? You cannot be faulted for saying the truth, even if the truth is unpleasant. So if I were, let's say, a food blogger and content creator, right, and I walk into a restaurant and it's not a sponsored meal, for example, and I see cockroaches on the floor, the soup was very salty, the bread was burnt, and I want to tell these things to my readers, right, I will say it as it is.
Yep.
I saw cockroaches on the floor, the soup was too salty, the bread was burnt. Nobody can fault you for saying the
Because
truth.
that's a fact.
It's a fact. And you contrast this with saying things like, the food here is super awful, the restaurant is damn unhygienic. It becomes a bit iffier, right? Because you introduce some value judgments into the comments that you are making, right? How do you substantiate super unhygienic?
Yeah, it depends.
You cannot, right? But how do you substantiate a piece of burnt bread? With a photo, right?
Exactly.
Or a video, right? You can back it up. So stick to the truth as far as possible.
So whatever I say on social media, as long as I can back it up,
it's the truth.
then I'll feel safe.
Then you are safer lah.
Got it. And always stick to facts, not opinions.
No. Not true. Some facts can get you into trouble. So if I say,
Okay.
don't take it to heart,
Yeah.
Eric is a money launderer.
Oh.
It's a fact, right?
Why?
No, I'm saying it as a fact, right?
Yeah.
I'm misleading people to think that it's a fact, right?
Correct.
But it's not true, ma. Correct? No? So these are what we call statements of fact. Eric is a money launderer. ABC is a prostitute. XYZ is a
But
criminal.
they must be able to prove it. Right?
If you want to say a fact like that, you must jolly well be able to
Otherwise,
use it.
that becomes
Otherwise,
defamation.
it becomes defamation. Okay?
Got it.
So, as far as possible, try to steer away from making absolute statements of fact unless you are very sure you can substantiate it. Which brings me to my next point, substantiation. Okay, I mean, I've talked about that already. Let's not go into detail. I think the third point is try to make it about yourself, not about whoever you're talking about. So again, let's go back to the food blogger, so to speak, example, right? There is a difference between saying, don't ever come to this restaurant versus I would never come back here again.
Oh.
You're sending the same message, right? Your readers are smart. If you say, I would never come back here again, you're effectively telling them, this place sucks lah, don't go lah, right? Okay? But the way you have phrased it is different, right? Don't go back. You are technically rallying people to boycott it, right? Versus, I would never
So
go
like,
back.
you know, if let's say I'm trying to do a critique of an insurance company, I can say I would never buy insurance from this company, but I cannot say something like do not buy insurance from this
Yeah,
company.
or don't say that they are crooks lah, they are...
Again, crude is subjective.
lah,
As you say, it's not a fact.
yeah, okay, so for example,
Yeah.
if I feel that an insurance company or an insurance agent is very unethical,
Yeah.
right? There is a huge difference between saying, John, my insurance agent, is super unethical versus saying, if I had a choice, I would never ever do business with him. Nobody can fault you for not wanting to do business with him. It's your
Yeah.
personal preference, ma.
Correct.
Correct or not? But the moment you go and say, hey, it's him, he is unethical, he is a crook.
That's defamation.
Then that becomes
Again, that leads
defamation.
to point number two.
Right.
If you can substantiate, that's one thing.
But hard to substantiate these kind of things, right? So, my readers nowadays are very smart, right? They can read between the lines and they want to be able to come to a conclusion by themselves. So just give them the facts to work with and lead them to the conclusion. You can technically send that same message without sounding like you are an angry person or without, running the risk of defaming somebody.
I love that. Is it true that if I make a statement, if I say something like, I believe that, I think that, in my opinion, when I start sentences like that, does that help cushion and maybe even prevent myself from getting a defamation suit?
To some extent, yes, but it's not entirely bulletproof. Because if within, let's say you write a comment that's 3 paragraphs long, okay? And within these 3 paragraphs, every sentence is prefaced with I believe, I think, I feel. If you get sued, a reasonable judge will look at it and say, you cannot be packing 20 allegations into 3 paragraphs and then be able to then get away with it by just saying that I think, I feel, I suppose, right? At the end of the day, we still go back to the same principles. Are these things capable of being proven as true? Are they capable of being substantiated? Are you saying these things to bring up a point which society needs to know about? Right? Which is important for people to know about. Okay, give you an example. Okay, there was a case, and this is a real case. Not that I dealt with it personally, but it's a real case. What happened was that one of the local newspapers actually ran a story about how a childcare center in Singapore was the incubus or the breeding point for hand, foot, mouth disease.
Oh my God.
Right? And the story ran by the paper actually contained some allegations about how, certain hygienic practices were not being carried out, etc., etc. The childcare center sued the newspaper and said, hey, how can you say these kind of things about me? It's defamation, right? You are ruining my company's reputation. One of the defenses that the newspaper ran was what we in lawyer terms call a fair comment, right? So the newspaper actually said in court, look, I say these things constitute fair comment because I'm trying to raise a point that I think the public ought to know about. If your childcare center is a breeding ground for hand, foot, mouth disease, don't you think it's something that's of public interest that people would want to know about so that they can take necessary precautions? So if you can prove that what you are saying...
like whistleblowing, is it?
Something like that. So if you can prove that what you're saying is something that the public would genuinely be concerned about and that you are saying these... you are making these statements based on what you believe to be true, right? Then that's a
with evidence?
Yeah lah, of course lah, right? Then that acts as a potential shield to a defamation claim.
Got it, fair comment.
Yeah, fair comment. So you've got fair comment, you've got truth lah, right? There are a few others lah, but too much to talk about.
Oh my God.
Sign up, go to law school, they will teach you these things.
They'll teach you.
Yeah, go to law school if you're interested.
Sign your son up and make sure
make
a friend who is studying
make sure
law,
your
right?
children,
Now let's move on to the last part of today's interview, which I hold a special interest to because my personal friend, which is also your friend,
Okay.
right? Xia Xue,
Who's that?
right? Xia Xue is
Do I know
actually-
her? Who's she?
Yeah,
Is she
Wendy,
famous? Ah,
she's very
okay.
famous. And Wendy happens to also be our guest of our inaugural episode here in hashtag highly sought after. So
How
we
many
all-
episodes behind her am I?
You are episode 13.
I take offense. every
No,
time.
13 is a very good number. Oh my god, you're gonna sue me. So anyway, the cancel culture.
Right.
So what's cancel culture? Cancel culture is where you say something, and then people on the netizens, right? They're not happy about it, and they can rally people together to ostracize you and to block you and deny you of commercial work, right? And then you lose your rice bowl.
Right.
And of course, we see that happening to a lot of very famous people. One of it, of course, is our friend, right, Wendy Xia Xue. So, how do we make sure that that doesn't happen?
Well, the thing about being a content creator, it's not an easy job. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to constantly straddle what is safe content and what's controversial content.
But controversial content is the kind of content that
Correct,
seems to do
right?
very well on social
Controversial
media.
content is the kind of content that gets you the eyeballs, right? Because if you are vanilla all the way, you are not interesting,
Yeah.
right? So that line is difficult to straddle. And that line, the goalpost keeps changing, right? Because what is not acceptable now to say or to do could have been perfectly acceptable 10, 20 years ago. Of course,
100%.
let's not go into
Yeah.
the details,
Yes, exactly.
right? But there are certain things you can say or do 10, 20 years ago that if you do now, you will be lynched. Let me give you a very good example.
Yeah.
If you are free, you go on to Netflix, you go and watch Phua Chu Kang.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
You will see that the jokes that they make in Phua Chu Kang, if they make them now, they will be dead. The entire show will get cancelled and the entire cast and crew will get lynched. Okay? So the goalpost keeps changing. So that makes straddling that line or maintaining that balance very difficult.
Correct.
So I think as content creators, what you need to do with your content, really, especially if you envisage it to be controversial, is to run a litmus test. Go show it to your friends, right? Because sometimes if you are the creator, you are so far down that rabbit hole,
Correct.
you believe so much in your own content that you think is right, what?
Yeah, you're blindsided.
Yeah, it's biased, right? To some extent. So run it through friends. If you have a team, run it through your team and ask them, hey, do you think this is going to pass the litmus test for cancellation, right? And get a variety of views and opinions, And if you are still unsure, then I would say, you see, I wouldn't even say speak to a lawyer because a lawyer can only tell you whether or not it's legal. But some things may be legal yet cancelable. You see? So I would say this is a situation where lawyers may not be very useful. So go get a variety.
Exactly, because you said what cancel culture is, what the power behind cancel culture is the social
Yeah,
power.
it's not getting sent to jail.
Yeah.
It's not getting fined. It's not getting sued. It's being, so to speak,
Public
ostracized.
opinion that kills you.
Yeah, that kills you. You are judged in a court of public opinion and your income streams are cut off because people then decide to withdraw all sorts of financial support
And
or
can I
patronage.
sue them for doing that?
You can't because it's their choice whether or not they want to do business with you. Can you sue somebody for not walking into your cake shop and then buying your cake?
But I can sue the person that started it
Possibly.
for defamation, maybe.
If you can show that this whole thing started because somebody made a statement about you that was untrue, made an allegation about you that was defamatory, then you can go after this person and say, hey, you were the cause of it, right? And therefore, you ought to pay me compensation for putting me in the position I am in today, right? But even so, that comes with its own set of difficulties because at the end of the day, you got to go to court and show that whatever income you have lost was directly caused by this act. And that's not easy to prove, right? That's not easy to prove. Yeah.
So the question I have for you is that, we are human beings, really. We will make mistakes. And if you think about it, a lot of the famous people recently got in trouble for mistakes that they make when they were not that famous. Right? And people are going to use that against personalities.
Right.
What can we do? Like in Wendy's case, right? People use something that she said, 10 years ago against her. And
well, I think you should know your own risk level as a public figure or as a content creator. And I think if you haven't already done that, it's a timely juncture to do an audit of the past content that you've created.
Mm.
Go back and see whether or not there's anything that's
That might be infringing.
glaringly obnoxious or unacceptable in the context of what people deem to be acceptable today, lah.
Correct.
Right? And if you find something like that, just delete it, lah. Right?
What about critic videos? You know, like as a YouTuber, you know, we do a lot of critics, right? Like for example, there was this very famous YouTuber that kind of make commentaries about this real estate agent who was trying to record a video selling a property, but of course maybe it was not it was lame lah in his
Not in good taste, lah.
yeah, you know, and then it forms two sides. You know, he got very good engagement. Like people are also like saying, yeah, I think that video wasn't good. But to the person, the real estate guy, right? Could he sue the YouTuber?
It depends on the content. I'm not familiar with this example.
Commentary is really just commentary. That means
If it's just satire and if it's just making a joke out of it, then
Correct.
I don't think you have that much grounds to sue because an obvious satire or an obvious joke
like laughing at you, like, oh my god, look at Wei Li, why his accent like that one?
no
Or
lie,
like how he looks like that.
it's
yo.
not grounds for defamation. It's not grounds for defamation. But again, the line is very thin, right? Could then something like that be considered cyberbullying? If I take a photo or a video of somebody and then I go online and
And I
then
make fun
make
about
fun of this person
Yeah.
and I insult this person, and if the insults are very severe, then it could potentially cross the line and stray into the territory of what we call cyberbullying. And if it strays into the territory of cyberbullying, then we have our own set of, Singapore has a set of laws that come under harassment to deal with cyberbullying, right? Yeah. So I think the overall tip for content creators, whom I work with very often, is moderation. Moderation. There are two camps to it, right?
Yes.
Two schools of thought. The first school of thought, which is on one end of the extreme, is that I create my content, I take pride in the content, I should be able to say what I want to say.
Correct.
Right? Why should I
Free
give
speech.
Yeah, why should I give two hoots about you?
Correct.
The other end of the spectrum is let's just play it safe, keep everything vanilla. Right? Then you run the risk of not getting
A lot of
eyeballs
views,
because
yeah.
you're just another vanilla content creator,
Correct.
right? So I think moderation is the key. Moderation is the key. You've got to, like I said, that line is elusive. It's hard to grasp. It's hard to straddle. But one way you can do it is to say, okay, I'm going to create this content, but I will run it by other people to get their views. And if you want to run it by other people, listen to them. Don't say, hey, I create this, I run it by you. I don't want to listen to you.
that's confirmation
then
bias.
for what,
Yeah.
right? So listen to them and value their opinion and see how you can tweak the content to keep it safe, right? And of course, there are certain areas that you know you cannot touch, right? They are live minefields, right?
Yeah.
You cannot talk about race.
Yeah.
You cannot
race.
talk about religion. You cannot talk about, for example, things that matter, that impinge upon LGBT rights, for example, because these things are very sensitive topics nowadays,
Correct.
right? So
And people are very opinionated in those things, right?
yeah. So you don't want to, unless of course you want to create controversy and you
Correct.
purposely want to go and poke the sleeping bear then you go
Yeah.
and do it But if you want to steer clear of being cancelled or you want to steer clear of trouble, then I would say it's best to not even touch these topics. Yeah.
Fantastic. You know, if there's one thing that I get out of this conversation with you, is at the end of the day, it boils back down to the intent of the content creator. Like, are you creating this content to divide people? Are you creating this content to unite people?
Right.
Because anything that's controversial tends to divide people, and you're taking advantage of divisive opinions. You see.
I wouldn't say taking advantage because I think that as far as my views are concerned, I think that there's always room for discourse in society, right? And you are entitled to your own views. And if you are a content creator with very strong personal views, I believe that we should be able to put out these views for discussion. What I don't technically believe in is a culture of silencing somebody whose views you don't agree with. To some extent, that's the nature of cancel culture, right?
Yeah, and
I don't like what you are saying.
And
Therefore,
I cancel you.
I don't want you to talk anymore. I cancel you. I don't think that's right.
yeah, how is that different from bullying then?
At least that's what I feel, right? If you don't agree, then the right thing to do would be to say how you don't agree with this person and to put it out there for a civil debate, and not to say, hey, I don't like what you're saying, I want to cancel you, right? two sides of the fence to this. Depends on which side you're on.
You know, I'm just laughing right now because we are kind of about 45 minutes into our interview, we're wrapping up. And I'm just thinking, well, you know, that's like how much money we have just helped the listeners and viewers saved
It's okay.
because of all the awesome legal advice.
You can buy
that
me
you've given
dinner
us.
later,
Okay.
Eric.
See, guys, I'm gonna do all of you guys a favor. I'm gonna buy really dinner
On behalf of all your
of all the
viewers,
listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
So, you know, really, thank you so much for, you know, giving us clarity in these three big issues. And we are very curious about you. So,
I'm a very boring person.
like, I know that you recently started your own firm,
Right.
and I really very much want you to share with all of us, like, you know, what's this firm about, and what do you specialize? How can we reach out to you for help?
Yeah, you're right. So I started my own firm early this year in January. We are a firm that does really primarily internet and social media kind of work. So we advise individuals, public figures. We advise companies, brands on a spectrum of internet-related issues, from reputation management to things like online payment, data protection, privacy, social media use policies, right? So we don't only deal with influencers and public figures, we also work with brands and companies. And besides that, we also do quite a bit of non-internet work in terms of disputes. So personally, I do quite a bit of work in medical law, employment law, right? Corporate and commercial. I also do quite a bit of work with China-related companies when they need legal help here in Singapore, because I can speak Mandarin. I'm one of the rare lawyers who can speak Mandarin and write Mandarin, so I have a bit of advantage.
A little bit of advantage.
Yeah.
He sings very well, by the way. You should go check him out on Instagram.
Most lawyers jakantang, cannot
Jakantang,
speak.
is
cannot
English
speak.
speaking.
So that's in a nutshell what we do. I also have a company with a friend who does what we call reputation management. That company is not purely legal. It's more like a digital marketing company where if you have, let's say, a comment or comments that you don't like about your brand, what we can do is to use digital marketing techniques to sort of push down the content. So non-legal remedies, because sometimes legal remedies are not the be-all and end-all.
Exactly.
Right? Like I said, and we discussed this earlier, right? Whatever goes onto the internet stays there, right?
Forever.
You can get the person to compensate you. You can get that person
damage
to take
still
this.
there.
Damage is done. It's there. So we hope to try to use these non-legal means to sort of help people protect their reputations, to push down certain, so to speak, listings or content. Yeah. So that in a nutshell is what I do. Very boring one.
Yeah, but I tell you, it might be boring for you, but it's actually very interesting for me. I'm just surprised how, time flew by just like that. And, for those of you listening, watching, do check out Wei Li. I'll put Wei Li contact details, Instagram, website, Forward Legal into our show notes. So if, you are building a personal brand and if you really do care about your own reputation and you want to be on the safe side, I really think that, one of your most important ally is a lawyer.
Wow.
Right? So
Okay.
that is what I personally believe in.
All right. Now I question
Yeah.
my friendship with you, Eric.
Why?
I'm skeptical. Are you really in it?
Am I there?
Yeah.
Well,
because you really see me as a nice person worthy of being a friend. Kidding.
Invite you a podcast somewhere. Right. So anyway, Wei Li, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having
wish you all
me.
the best for your success.
Yeah, thank you so
Right,
much.
thank you.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
thanks a lot. Right.
Yo.
Yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, that was Wei Li from Forward Legal. I think my biggest takeaway is this. One of the biggest fears that content creators, entrepreneurs, service professionals face when we're on social media is we're scared that we get in trouble, right? And therefore, we have a lot of fear and anxiety and worry. But my biggest takeaway from my chat with Wei Li is rather than being fearful, why not take a proactive step to know what you can and cannot do? So once you understand the boundaries of what you cannot do, then everything else becomes playable field for your business, for your reputation, for your brand. So I encourage you to go watch this video one more time, take lots of notes, and we'll put all the links down there, right, so that you guys can go check out the notes and the summary and the transcript. So we do podcast videos like this once a week. So remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and I'll see you in the next podcast video.